Hello. So I'm coming to you today kind of unstyled because I did a tutorial this morning for, it was a highly requested tutorial that I've been waiting a long time to do for Liz Taylor inspired look. I did not use myself as the model, so please check that out if you haven't already. I wanted to do a book review today, and I am super thrilled about this review because it's a book that I've been looking for a long time and I just didn't know it. A friend of mine named Amy did a book review on a book that is currently out of print called Vintage Face, and I've actually wondered about that book for quite some time, but I've never wanted to shell out the money for it because, God forbid, it is actually running, I think, like $300 on Amazon right now, used. So evidently, you know, it's in demand, but it's out of print, and she did a review on it, which I'll post below, which, you know, showed that the book is not worth the $300. But I was thinking at the time, and I wrote this on my blog entry review, that it would be great if there was a book similar to Kevin Aucoin's Making Faces book, but for vintage purists, because there needs to be a book that is really, really easily accessible, that's successful at explaining the history of makeup, much like Lauren Reynolds' retro makeup book does, but also a little bit more about colors that were popular at the time, and you know, a little bit more about the ancient history of makeup, which I find, you know, just fascinating. And I noticed that Gabriela Hernandez, who is the creator and founder of Besame Cosmetics, my very favorite red lipstick brand, it's just a great brand all around, that Gabriela Hernandez has a book that she's written, and it's available on her site for like $50, which is a lot, but it's a signed copy. So I contacted her, and she actually sent me a press copy of it, which I really greatly appreciate because this is a book I would totally buy. It is not $50 everywhere. There are places where you can get it for much less than that, so make sure you do your research. Even though I will link the link below to her website because I know she probably gets the most return on the books. If you buy from her directly, you can also purchase copies elsewhere. But the book is called Classic Beauty, and it's the history of makeup. And look at this book. It's beautiful. It's like a must-have coffee table book. It's fabulous. It's a hardback, big, beautiful illustrations, just gorgeous book. And I want to recommend it to all of you even before I start the review because this is the kind of book that, you know, you can just like live in for a few days. It took me 2 days to read it entirely, and I absolutely love it. It's an easy read. It's not super wordy. But it just accomplishes so much in such a succinct fashion. I definitely want all of you to check it out. Okay, so the book starts with the history of makeup, and we're talking the ancient history of makeup. It goes into the ingredients that were used in cosmetics all the way from 25,000 BCE, 33,000 BCE upwards, and it consists of these gorgeous big photos, but also really great, like a timeline. And the timeline is super easy to read. It's just a few little sentences per year, and it just kind of carries you through the years. It shows you makeup products that were used by the Greeks, the Romans, you know, just the Vikings, and on into the Middle Ages. Brings out really interesting points that I had never really thought of before, such as, you know, those elaborate costumes and the elaborate clothing that was used back in the 1700s, how it was almost impossible to clean those clothes. And so the type of products that were not used for cleaning. They were just used for covering up odor, which is just disgusting. But, you know, it's just some stuff you never think about. Those huge elaborate wigs were many times infested with insects and mice, and it just, you know, things that you just don't really think about when you look at the romance of the period. So this is just extremely, extremely fascinating. And I wanted to make sure all of you understood that it is a history book. The one thing that I definitely find as a slight inconsistency in the book is the fact that there seem to be a few pages where there's these outlined drawings instead of photos, and I'm sure that's because photos couldn't be obtained of those particular things, but they do seem a little inconsistent with the detail-oriented mood of the rest of the book. So I wasn't too thrilled with that. I don't think those little drawings were necessary sometimes. Sometimes I think it would have been better just to let that page go. And there's also this middle section of mascara and the history of lipstick. And I felt that that section was a little bit disjointed just because it doesn't go into any other products. You know, it's about mascara and it's about lipstick, but you kind of want to hear all the details about the development of eyeshadows and the development of foundations too. So I kind of felt like that was a little lacking. But other than that, I mean, goodness gracious, it's a great book. And I'm obsessed with going through it right now. It's so fabulous. And it has all these great ads. Look at all these great vintage ads. Okay, but then my very favorite part of the book is the latter half of the book. And the latter half of the book takes you through each individual decade and tells you not only what led to cosmetic trends in those decades, what colors were popular, but also how those movements and those trends and fads were fueled by cinema and by media and by politics at the time. It's really fascinating. Okay, and this is the section on the 1920s. See how it tells you like a color chart here to show you what was popular, what was used on the eyes. You know, we were so used to seeing in film the girls with the black and white, you know, in the black and white film, like Clara Bow, this photo pictured here, that we don't think about the fact that they were actually wearing colored eyeshadow most of the time. The girls love to have some color. The 30s and what was popular in the 30s. These beautiful photos. It takes you all the way through, seriously, the 2000s, which it refers to as the media generation. And here's the 2000s. I adore this book, and it has reawakened all of my interests that I've always had in the history of beauty. I've always been hugely interested in just the way that beauty has progressed and what's been deemed classically beautiful over the years and whether or not, you know, those things have changed, whatever. So this is just, it's just a wonderful, wonderful book. So I strongly suggest that all of you go purchase this. I don't think enough people know about it, and I definitely think it's a must-have. So that said, I actually asked my Facebook fans if they would be interested in my doing a walk-through history type of thing, dealing with each era from the 1920s to maybe the 1970s or 80s. And how that makeup has progressed and application techniques, colors that were interesting, and then also hair styles for the time. My hair is a length right now. I think I could pretty much pull off a style from any decade. So I'm kind of into that idea right now. It would be a strong commitment on my part, though, because I would want to get it out of the way. I would want to do just that until I was done. So, you know, a lot of my other tutorials will have to go to the wayside for a while. But I wanted to get your opinions on that. Please comment below if you would like to see a series like that. Just basically a historical walk through time. I was thinking that each decade would be a two-part series, a two-part video, one focusing on the history and one focusing on the tutorial. So that's my idea right now. And this is kind of a long book review, but I do think it's an important one, and I hope that you guys all go check out this book. And that's all I have to say about that.